Okay, welcome. It is August 5th, 2025, and this is the regular council meeting for the town of Rocky Mountain House, and I will call the meeting to order at 9 a.m. First is acknowledgement of Indigenous peoples. The town of Rocky Mountain House wishes to acknowledge that the land in which we gather is Treaty 6 territory and a traditional meeting ground and home for many Indigenous peoples, including the Blackfoot, Cree, Saulteaux, Stoney, and Métis. And we'll move on to adoption of the agenda. We have an agenda in front of us. Does anyone have any modifications or changes to that agenda? Councillor Schipholt.
I also move the agenda as presented.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Discussion on that motion? All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to delegations. We have a delegation, Western Management Consultants, for our police study, and I will pass the torch over to you, and yeah, just make sure you press your button for the red light.
I will do that. Can you
Thank
hear
you.
me? Good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having us here again. We thoroughly enjoyed the drive out this morning. It was very beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful country that you live in. My name is Joyce Tustian, for those people I haven't met before, and I am the project lead for this group, which is headed by WMC Western Management Consultants out of Edmonton. With me is my colleague Dana Antea-Moore, who handled all the public engagement work. Daryl Howery, who is our financial guru and will explain all those complex graphs to you, Councillor Shippert. And online we have Neil DeBoard, who is, I can't see him, so I feel like I'm talking into the vacuum, but who is our police expert and is joining us via Zoom call today. We're glad to be here. I have a very brief presentation, and then we would hope that most of the time would be in answering any questions that you might have. Okay. So I think the first thing that we really wanted you to know is that we believe that we designed and carried through a very thorough process. We've looked under almost every stone we could find and read documents and talked to people. We followed a 6-phase process. We started by making sure that we had agreement on the design of the work. We then did an assessment of your current RCMP contract and the services that you are providing. We then took a look at some alternative ways of delivering policing services, discussed them with you in terms of their fit, but then we did a lot of digging into their effectiveness and what worked and what didn't work. While this was happening, Dana was leading a community engagement and a stakeholder consultation, and you've probably already commented, I know a number of you have commented to us, but it was one of the best responses we have ever had to a survey. And we've done, we always do surveys, and we've done a lot of them. And this one was an amazing response and really speaks highly of the involvement of the citizens of Rocky Mountain House in this project. Then we set Daryl to work, and he did a lot of financial and operational analysis of the models. And from that, we prepared a final report with 3 main recommendations, which we have given to you before, but we will review with you as well today. So our key findings, which were very consistent over all our ways of gathering information, were, I think, exemplary of, I think you can have confidence in the fact that this is what most of the citizens that we spoke to and officials felt. The policing is clearly seen as an essential service, and people are willing to talk about it, to provide their feedback on it, and be involved in how the future will develop for this. And we found that most residents generally support the RCMP. It was a very positive feedback, both on the surveys, in focus groups, and in interviews. That was a very strong sense that we got. People are increasingly concerned, however, about mental health, social, and housing issues in Rocky Mountain House, and want to make sure that the town is responding appropriately to those kinds of challenges and needs. And there was a general concern over perceived lack of RCMP resources and visibility in the community. People would say, my experiences with the RCMP have been positive. I worry that they're not here a lot. I don't see them driving to my neighborhood. I see them leaving town, sirens and flashing lights to go someplace else, and that worries me. So we also took a very close look at crime rates, and we found that your non-violent crime rates are trending down, while your violent crime rates are increasing. But I would say that those are very small changes. It's not a substantial shift at all. And we also found that CPOs are being used and can be used more, we think, to support enforcement within the town itself. So these were the kinds of things we heard regularly from people. There was lots of data. Much of it is attached to the report. If you really are keen, we can go back in and give you, question by question on the survey, for example. But I think you'll find that generally this is the overall findings that we discovered. When Daryl did his financial analysis, and I'm going to do this now, but he'll talk about it more later, the RCMP contract costs are clearly rising, and that's what has driven some of your decisions in the last couple of years in terms of numbers of funded positions. But we found that they are still very competitive. Their costs compared to other alternatives are still your best deal. Because smaller municipalities generally small municipal forces lack economies of scale. You just aren't big enough to do the things as a small municipality in a way that is cost effective. We looked at a lot of hybrid and regional models, and we thought that in the longer term, they offer promise, but they're very complex in terms of their design and their implementation, and we don't think that they are going to meet your needs in the short term. There's a lot of financial risks involved in any of this, and we were careful to note that when we do the financial analysis, we have to include contingencies and hidden risks as well, because that tends to be, you can plan as best you can, but there's always things that happen that you had not anticipated would happen. And we think, especially in this area, there's many things that, I always say that running a police force and all the things that go with it are not in the current toolbox of most municipalities. It's not the things that municipalities do really well, because we've done them for years. So we came to the conclusion that the RCMP contract optimization and oversight can provide you with short-term gains and prepare you better for the future. Daryl, I know, will be happy to talk about this at greater length. I just wanted to talk briefly about the models that we did consider. We looked at a number of them, but we ended up with these, actually 6. It's because we've got 1 and 1A. But these are the ones that we looked at. We tested with in our focus group sessions, and we did a lot of costing and analysis of their effectiveness. The first one was an independent municipal police service for the town of Rocky Mountain House, run by the town of Rocky Mountain House. The second was a modification of that, where we would have the independent service, but having enhanced CPO presence and service. We spent a little bit of time looking at a regional independent police service, most particularly with the county, to see if there was some of this changed if you made the grouping bigger, and if it was of value to the county and the town to go forward on that. We looked at what would happen if you left it the way it was and simply enhanced your CPO program. We looked at the Alberta Provincial Police Service model, which is very much in development phase at this stage and didn't have a lot of detailed information to give us. And then we looked at the model of remaining with the RCMP and using the tools that you have within the current contract to optimize the performance for greater efficiency and control. So those were the 5 that we looked at in great detail in the report. There's a number of pages of material that will give you a very strong sense of what our assessment told us and why we drew the conclusions that we did. And we'd be happy to discuss those with you further today. Neil will have a lot of comments on that. So we came to some recommendations from us to you that we think are important. The first and main recommendation is that we recommend that you maintain the RCMP contract but optimize it to get from it service levels and ways of delivery that will better meet the town of Rocky Mountain House's requirements. Neil can talk to you later, and it's actually in the report. We have a fair amount of detail about what and how we think you can get from the RCMP through the contract development. And we've also got some experience of other municipalities that have done the same thing quite successfully and can provide some guidance to going forward. The second part of that, then, is that the following steps be taken to improve what you get from the RCMP contract. So we think that it's really critical that you strengthen your municipal policing committee, which is in early stages, but it really is the key link between you as a council and the RCMP, and is a really strong tool that's currently in development, but is there for your use as you go forward. We suggest you should demand data-driven performance reporting from the RCMP, and we have some suggestions and formats that you can ask and require. We believe that your contract with them gives you the authority to ask for this kind of information, and that you should do it. We think that you should advocate for enhanced service delivery with the RCMP particularly, and we have some suggestions in the detail of the report about how you might what kinds of arguments, discussions you might enter into to get that. And we also think that it's important that Rocky Mountain House becomes part of a movement in Alberta with many other municipalities around being more strategically engaged in advocating for the needs of smaller communities for policing in Alberta. Alberta, where are you not in your head? No? Okay. She's agreeing with me. Well, that's unusual. So just to make sure that there are things and ways in which you can make your voice better known to the provincial government, the federal government, and the citizens generally of Alberta. Our third recommendation is that you also, as a municipality, spend more time and energy managing and interfacing regarding policing than you probably have historically done. I think we see a lot of municipalities who are sort of passive clients of the RCMP. We're suggesting that you should not be that you should be a very active partner. We've talked in recommendation number 2 of the kinds of things that you might do then, but we think that you probably need some structural changes within your organization to make sure that you have the tools on your side to do that work. So we are recommending that you provide and create a new position, which we have very generically called a public safety manager. This would provide a centralized point for 3 things. One is oversight of the RCMP contract, the kinds of requirements and requests that you should make of the RCMP that we've talked about need to be handled by somebody. The second thing is that somebody needs to support the municipal policing committee. It's an important piece of work, but it doesn't happen without support and resources. And third, that this would also give you an opportunity to bring in your own CPO force and have them managed in that group, and so that you have a coordination between all those 3 areas. So we think that if you do that, you will have a cohesive strategy both from those resources that you handle internally and those that you contract with the RCMP. It'll be much clearer what the accountability and value proposition is, particularly for the RCMP, and that you will integrate the CPOs more strategically into the ongoing enforcement structure in Rocky Mountain House. So in the conclusion of the report, I've just taken this right out of the report, and I won't bother reading the whole thing to you, but the last paragraph says, in the end, a solution was proposed to build on past successes, because I think you need to take pride and comfort in the work that you have done as a municipality. But you need now to build on that and prepare the community for quick and effective responses to the changes that will arise in the next few years. Those changes being both changes within your community and the changes that are coming in the provincial field. Within 5 to 10 years, perhaps there will be a provincial police force, and you will need to decide at that point what your position is. But we think this is a very solid and safe and effective mid-step that will take you to that point. We've really enjoyed working with you and with your staff and with the community, and we thank you again for choosing us to be part of it. And we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that presentation. You know, the last number of months, we've been working very, very closely together, and we appreciate the work and the effort that you've put into this as well. So thank you for the information that we have in front of us today. And I guess the first question is, do we have any questions from council on the presentation? Councillor Schipholt.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. The question is, in your report, you talk about 12 members. And the graph in there, when it talks about members per capita, and you're advocating here for a public safety manager, increased costs. We started this process to decrease costs. Ironically, you're going the other direction. So several questions. Number one is I want to have a discussion on the amount of members per capita in our community compared to other communities. Number two, if 12 members, if we can cut back on the members in order to put a manager in place as you're suggesting. And thirdly, to that manager position, I have a hard time envisioning a full-time position looking after I'm not sure what. And so you've thrown it in the mix, but I totally don't understand what the job description would be for that person in terms of, I see maybe a part-time kind of job, but yet it should be full-time, and I see a cost to it. So those are my three questions, and I'm hoping that you could answer those.
Why don't we start with
Well,
the discussion
just-
about the number of members?
Just turn your light on, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Why don't we start with the discussion about numbers of members and how you compare and what we recommend. And Neil, are you able to respond to that for us?
I sure am. So when you look, one of the metrics we always see is the COP to POP ratio. And that COP to POP ratio does substantiate for 12 members at this particular time. It could actually be, depending on what population number we use for Rocky Mountain House, it could actually be up a little bit higher than 12. But I think 12 would be the minimum you would want to look at this particular time for the COP to POP ratio. Excuse me, for the number of members that you require. And maybe I'll just stop there and take any questions on that before I try to answer any other questions.
Can you talk about the graph where you compare the municipalities in terms of per capita, members per capita, and why some other communities are lower than us? Why that would be?
We'll have Daryl respond to that.
Yeah, thank you. I think maybe the graph you're referring to looks at expenditures per capita across some comparable municipalities. There is quite a wide range of costs, and this is reflective of the kinds of services that the councils of those communities have decided would be an appropriate level of policing services for that community. The town falls roughly within the range of those other communities, and the comparables include communities that have similar populations and similar kinds of circumstances in terms of post-model and other considerations, although certainly looking at a broader range of communities, I think you would find the same kind of mix generally. I just wanted to add to something that Neil had mentioned with respect to the complements of 12 officers. When we're, as you would have noted, going through the other options that were reviewed, to have 24/7 coverage, probably you need, and I guess I'm going by memory now, I think you probably need 16, maybe to 18 members for that full coverage. So it'd be very difficult to see a reduction in the number of sworn officers and still attempt to get that level of policing coverage. And I don't know, Neil, if you wanted to just comment on that as well.
Absolutely. So the number of officers you need for one full-time officer, 24/7, 365, is 5. So for every one officer that you want to put on the street 24/7, 365, you have to hire 5 officers. So for the number, because of vacation, because of training, because of time off, all of that, as a result, it requires you to have at least 16 to 18 officers if you were going to just deploy in Rocky Mountain House. So the number of 12 is actually a substantial saving compared to if you had to deploy yourself 24/7, 365.
And I just wanted you to elaborate on that, Neil, because we certainly looked at the possibility where there may be some savings achieved from reducing the number of sworn officers, but from a practical operational point of view, it probably doesn't make sense. So we did look at that.
Do you have further questions on that, Councillor? Do you have, on that particular portion, did you have any follow-up questions on what you've just heard?
No, one of the things we often hear is how many staff they need to support, the support staff there. And we've heard that if we have more support staff, sometimes that'll eliminate a member. And so I guess I was somewhat asking that question, wanted to know if we didn't have a sworn officer, but we had more support staff, if that could be, if that was looked at all, because in this case, we're talking specifically members, and nowhere does it mention support staff to those members here.
We looked at that as part of all the services that all the municipalities provide. We did not specifically pull that out. I do not feel personally, and I'll ask Neil to comment on this, that you're going to see any significant amount of numbers reduction through support staff. I mean, what you're really talking about is presence in the community, legislative authority to intervene as necessary, and that's not going to change substantially. Neil, do you want to comment on that?
Absolutely. The two things we looked at as well as whether or not we could replace some of those sworn officers with CPOs. So, what would that look like if we could change their amount of authority and actually reduce it by being able to put in a CPO at a lesser cost? In relation to replacement for admin staff, at this point in time, we didn't exactly, as Joyce mentioned, break down and say, okay, if we increase 2 administrative staff, could that reduce a sworn officer? Because we do believe strongly that the 12 sworn officers you have is going to be the minimum number that you're going to be able to do, considering the context around Rocky Mountain House. Meaning that in some other communities, you might be able to go below that COP-to-POP number because their crime severity index is less. But in Rocky Mountain House, right, you have a crime severity index which is moderate, and as a result of that, I think you need the sworn officers with the authorities necessary to be able to do the work.
If you don't have any follow-up on that right now, I would just like to comment about recommendation number 3, which is the recommendation that you create a new position. It's create a new position and create a new work unit as well to bring together the various pieces where the town of Rocky Mountain House deals with law enforcement. So those 3 are the RCMP contract. The second is the support to the Municipal Policing Commission, and the third is the oversight of the CPO program. I think all of those are significant pieces of work. Certainly, I don't know whether Dean has anything he wants to comment about the challenges of managing CPO functions in a municipality, but you're certainly not alone in having to work hard to keep your numbers up to where they need to be in terms of staff, to make sure that those staff have the support that they need to have, and that they coordinate with the RCMP appropriately so that there's not overlap. We're stepping on each other's toes. The Municipal Policing Committee, I think, is a big chunk of work. It really will deliver a lot of the policy work and for this community on your behalf, and needs to have solid support for it as well. And just the whole thing about the kinds of work that we think needs to happen with the RCMP to ensure that you are able to get the data you need to be able to negotiate for the kind of services you need. The report has some ideas about how you might bargain, is probably too strong a word, to get staff when and where you need them in Rocky Mountain House. I think it is a very important position. I think in the long run, and I say this with care because I spent a lot of years in a municipality and know that it's easy to promise savings and very hard to deliver them. But I think coordination of those functions will, in the long term, be of financial benefit to the town of Rocky Mountain House, because you will not be replacing staff regularly. You will not be missing opportunities for service streamlining and coordination. I think it's the kind of investment you need to make in the future of your community for the safety of your citizens.
Joyce, if I may add a comment on that as well, if that's okay?
Please. Go ahead, Neil.
Absolutely, yeah. What we have seen in other municipalities that have the RCMP as their police of jurisdiction as well is that they do have a public safety director or manager that has multiple duties. So you're not wrong in your question in relation to, I can't see it being a full-time job. They do have other duties such as emergency management and some other things around public safety. However, what we always see is if you want to squeeze the sponge and get the most water out of it, the best way to do it is to have someone accountable for that and actually interacting with the RCMP and the police committee. So that's the reasoning around why that public safety person would be an advantage to be able to ensure that you're getting best value out of the contract that you're spending, over $2 million for with the RCMP.
And Daryl?
No, Neil covered it, thank you.
Neil covered it, he said. Okay.
Okay, Councillor Schipel, did that answer your question sufficiently?
The problem I have is we pay for a staff sergeant already. We have a contract in place. And now we're going to ratchet up by putting another person into the mix to make sure that the other ones are doing their job. Are we going to need a fourth person in place after a while to make sure that the first three are doing their job? Like, the problem I have is you keep adding bureaucrats to the system that cost us money. So every man, woman, and child in Rocky pays about, according to this report, about $340 for policing. And you are advocating, oh, that's about normal, and it's going to be more. The contract comes out this year at another $250,000 more than last year. I was really hoping you'd come with to us to save money, not cost us money.
Yeah.
And I hear you, and I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure I'm confident with what you're saying as to be the end all. To answer the acting mayor's question, am I comfortable with your answer? Not really. I hear you, I understand you, but I see ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching down the road for the taxpayers of our community.
Well, and I think if you had a look at the long-term financial analysis, and maybe Daryl will want to talk about this, but one of the things that really struck me when I looked at the material that came is the increase in policing costs for all municipalities and the decrease in the ability of municipalities to raise funds to help deal with some of that increase. So you've got things going the wrong way. The future for policing in communities in Alberta is that it's going to cost more money in the future, no matter what happens. And the question is, how do you limit that? How do you get the best for that? But I do think it is something that really is, you've put your finger on a really important point, that the affordability of policing services generally, and it's got nothing to do with the provider. It's not that the RCMP is inefficient, because they're not. But it's just that communities are changing, needs are changing, growth is happening, and this is the result of it. And Daryl wants to say something.
Yeah, just quickly, this is really a good question. How many checkers do you need checking the checkers? And then you've got checkers checking checkers, checking checkers. So that's a really good question to ask. Just a couple of things in addition to what Joyce has said on this that may be helpful. The responsibility of this person would be looking after the town's interests, which is different, and being responsive and reporting to the town. And that's not dissimilar to what the RCMP commander sergeant would be doing, but they're answering to a different boss. And so they have slightly same objectives generally, but because they're answering to a different master, I think it's important, as has already been stated, that you've got somebody looking after the town's interests, and that they're responsible to you for achieving those objectives. The other thing which Joyce, you had mentioned, that it may be helpful to identify, what kinds of credentials that this person would be required, that if you choose to pursue this particular recommendation, what credentials would this person need? What would you be looking for in hiring somebody, and what would their qualification requirements be? But then also, what would their duties be? What kinds of things should they be responsible for? And so I know that's not included in the report, but I think you had offered maybe that at some point, as we could, if you're interested in that information. Sorry, I'm done now. Joyce is I'm getting the pause.
The power, I can pull the microphone away. My apologies, I didn't mean to do that. Yes, we did talk about that. We have looked at a couple of other municipalities, as Neil said, that have this kind of a function, and we have some sample job descriptions and ideas of how it has happened. We had some discussion on the car on the way out, is what happens if this doesn't work, if this person is not able to do what we see needs to be done. And the best I can tell you is that my experience as a municipal manager for 35 years, is I think this is a very doable job. I think you've got a very competent CAO. I think if you hire the right person, that will be, the structures will be put in place to do everything you can to make sure that this does indeed work for your citizens. And prepare, part of it too is that you need to pull your stuff together, all your bits and pieces of enforcement together, and know where you want to go, know what your policies need to be, because within the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to be asked to make this decision over and over again. When the provincial police force comes to town, you will be in a much better position if you have this, to know what you want and how much you want to pay for it and where you will get it. Otherwise, you are behind you're behind what's actually happening, and you're scattered in your approach. And we think it's really important to bring this together, as Daryl has said very articulately, to represent your needs at these various tables, and make sure that you're well prepared for the decisions that will have to be made in the next 5 to 10 years.
I see Councillor Shippold has another question.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. So a question sort of indirect to what we're doing here, but number 4, your model area, where you talk about provincial police service, you make a comparison to the OPP in Ontario, and you come up and say, there's a statement in there that says, if we were to be same as OPP in Ontario in our community, the cost would be $4.6 million to our municipality. We're going to be paying 2.6, just over that. Why would they in Ontario stick with a program that costs $2 million more than it would cost us here for the same policing model? Is Ontario that, like, are they hiding under a rock, or is that number incorrect? Or when you talk that big of a number in terms of policing in a jurisdiction our size, there being a $2 million difference, why?
Yeah, well, I don't know the answer to that question. Obviously, that's a question for the province of Ontario, and the decision that they made many years ago to have their own provincial police force, as opposed to engaging with the RCMP, as Alberta and other provinces have done. We were in the position of trying to determine what would this option look like, given that we don't have anything concrete to go on. We do know that 2 provinces have their own municipal police force, and in looking at those, that gives us a proxy as to what the cost may be on a per member basis to the province of Alberta municipalities that would utilize that service. It's only there as just a proxy. What the cost of the Alberta police force may look like, we don't know. And I'm not sure anybody at this point knows, because it will depend on what they end up rolling out. But just to give you some idea as to what that could look like, we use the Ontario example as a proxy for what maybe the Alberta Police Force may look like. I just want to say one more thing before Joyce pulls the microphone away from me again on this, is that they offer very similar kinds of services to the RCMP, so it isn't a perfect apples to apples comparison, and we don't know what the Alberta Police Force may ultimately offer either, so that's highly speculative using that number. But one thing to keep in mind is that the Alberta Provincial Police Force is going to be smaller than what the Ontario Provincial Police Force is, just in terms of its numbers and size. Responsibilities will probably be similar, but the Ontario force may be an underestimate of what the Alberta force may look like just because of economies of scale. Just building from a particular size and being able to add more members and capabilities adds to the cost, but on a diminishing basis. So it's in there, it's a placeholder for a cost. I think as time goes on and more information and there's more analysis done and the province shares with everyone what their expected budget for this force will be, you can then compare those numbers as they come out with what we've estimated it to be based on Ontario.
And I see Councillor Musker. Councillor Musker has a question.
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor. In your document and desk research summary, it says that there was, the review surfaced that a number of key pieces of information specific to policing in Rocky Mountain House were not available and so were not included in the review. Could you speak to that and how having access, why there wasn't access to it, how having that information might have improved this report for us, please?
Thank you. Neil, do you want to address this?
Absolutely. So one of the key pieces of information we were looking for is response times to priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3 calls. We were looking at, how responsive the RCMP is currently to the town of to the town of Rocky Mountain House, and how potentially they were meeting some of the performance standards. We were not able to get those response times from them. One of the key pieces of information that we did receive late that was helpful was the distribution of call load between sort of the 3 areas, between the region, between the First Nations, and between the town itself. And that was helpful for us to be able to determine, what does the number of members that you're currently paid for, which is 12, how does that compare to the call load that you're currently receiving? And from the data that we received on that piece of information, it showed that the town of Rocky Mountain House was actually getting better value because they were responding to slightly more calls in proportion to the region and to the First Nations as compared to the number of officers. So that was a key piece of information we received late that we were able to put into the report. But the main one that we were missing was the response times.
And remain missing.
Yes, correct.
Go ahead, Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Is this one of the things that you would recommend that we pursue through the MPs, the police service agreement? To
Absolutely.
get that information?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely, we're looking at policing as a holistic thing for the town of Rocky Mountain House, and, whatever we do, of course, is going to have to go to service level, because if we're talking a new position, that definitely has to be a discussion, because that leads to budgetary items as well. And it's very clear that, the RCMP, as you said, they answer to K-Division, and K-Division answers to headquarters in Ottawa. So somehow or another, municipalities, including Rocky Mountain House, need to come up with a better formula of dealing with the RCMP to get what we need. The RCMP are good at what they do, but they're not really good at being questioned by municipalities. And that's something that we have to look at, and we have to change, and we have to modify, whether that's looking at a new position, whether that's looking at our policing committee and enhancing that committee itself. That'll be, of course, a discussion at service level and going into budget. But that is probably the biggest thing we need to look at is RCMP and how they interact with municipalities, because right now it's more, we need the money, sign the check, we'll take care of it.
And I do think this is a change in focus, both for municipalities as well for the RCMP. The RCMP obviously is doing what smart companies do. They pay attention to what their superior person tells them to do. The accountability to municipalities is a newer thing for the RCMP, and we, the data is clearly there. It's a question of how it is formatted and given. But the other side of it, as I said before, is that the municipalities also have to work harder at making sure that they know what they want and demand it, and keep that relationship strong so that the information is available for decision making.
Okay, do we have any other question of our delegation? Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions, so thank you again very much. The report you put together and the information and the studies you've done are invaluable information. This is, of course, information that we will take and digest and deal with further when we're talking about our budgetary process. But I wanted to thank you again for the work you've done and the professional way that you've done it. I think I can speak on behalf of all of council that you've done a great job on this.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on to our agenda. So I'm going to move on to adoption of the previous minutes. We have the minutes from July 15th, 2025. Is there any errors or omissions or any changes that need to be made to those minutes? Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I move that we adopt the minutes for the regular council meeting of July the 15th, 2025.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Any discussion on that motion? Call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. So moving on to delegation business, item 6. So we've had has a presentation. Now we have time to discuss it. Pardon me? Oh, sorry. I thought you had said something, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. I agree with a lot that Councillor Chappelle had commented on with the increase and adding more money. I think there's a lot to look at in this study that could benefit us. A lot could start, I think, with our policing committee, who I think as a whole, I've sat on that one for, I don't know, about a year now, and you get information that comes from the RCMP, and for example, it's later down in our agenda for information, the multi-year financial plan, and here it is. We as a committee, we look at it and it's like, okay, yeah, great, thanks. And that's it. We have no, or I should say we don't know if we have a say in it, what things come from K Division. So I do see on the other side of it, if we did have a position that could possibly be part-time or someplace and looking at the best interests of the municipality, and can be able to say, when we're looking at these documents, hey, yes, no, check the boxes or whatever it may be. But having said that, I think that this is definitely something that needs to go to service level, as there is a budgetary item attached to it, and to take some of the information that the WMC has gathered on the position, what that might look like, and put it through service level. That would be my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely something that needs to go to service level. This isn't something we're going to solve today at the table. And there's more moving parts to this than just the study that we've had. I mean, of course, the provincial police force that's being looked at, the way that PPSAs are being looked at as opposed to MPSAs, all of that is going to play a factor into future discussions. So I agree with Deputy Mayor Hutchinson that this does need to go to service level, and this is something that requires a much more comprehensive discussion. Councillor Schipholt.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I'd just like a comment from administration. I think as council, I agree with taking it to service level review and having a look, I guess, how's administration feel about that? And what, do they have any observations, having heard what we heard this morning?
Mr. Kraus.
I thought we were just gonna send it to service level. No, but, no, I mean, to be honest with you, it's hard for me at first glance to justify a position. I think I would like to review what other municipalities are doing and what is tagged on to that position. But up front, I can't actually see it. Because we are a little different than other municipalities that may have that position. For example, I'm sure a position like a protective service manager would oversee a fire department also in other municipalities where we have a regional fire department. And so I'd like to do that comparison first. Plus, we've also just did restructuring within our town organizations with moving the peace officers to a different department for more focus. And we're just starting to see the benefits of that. So really, it's going to be a huge discussion, I think, at service level. Because also a really robust discussion needs to occur with council of what priorities you want the peace officers to focus on. And is it greater, is it lesser, is it bylaw focused, is it to enhance the RCMP? So with that discussion with council, then we can figure out actually how many CPOs we need and go from there. In regards to getting more information out of the RCMP, well, council's already achieved that. We have 2 reports that we requested and produced for us. Unfortunately, the one report that would have helped the study, the RCMP has said it was protected and they weren't prepared to release it outside of council's knowledge. So we have achieved that. So working with the police committee, I think going through this report, we can definitely put the RCMP into more informative ways for council. So I don't know if I have answered your question, Councillor Schiffels, but it really is going to require a robust discussion with council on identifying service levels for both CPOs and RCMP.
You answered my question. Perfect, thank you. As soon as I start talking another position, I get excited. And a management position on top of it, so definitely good for some robust conversation down the road.
Okay, so Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you prepared to make a motion for that?
Yeah, I just had one quick question for admin. The reports that we received from the RCMP that are only for council, can that be extended to the policing committee as information, or would it be?
Yeah, no, actually, it initially went to the policing committee and then to council. So the policing committee has seen that report.
Did we?
Yes, yes.
So, our meetings are usually pretty quick, and
I
that's.
mean, that report's getting close
Yeah.
to a year old.
That's
so
true.
It's quite a while ago, so.
Yeah. Well, maybe I wasn't on it yet. That's my excuse. Having said that, I would make the resolution that council accepts the police study final report as information and bring the report to service level for further discussion.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Do we have any discussion on that particular motion? If not, I'll call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. So we have nothing under old business. New business, the request for decision on the ICE policy. And I see Lisa is coming up to the front.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Chair. I'm the Recreation Services Manager, and I am here on behalf of Wes Ament, our Director of Recreation and Community Services. Rocky Rams made a request to change the ICE allocation priority, so request for third priority for their practices, as well as looking to be reclassified as a youth organization. So there are a couple of things that impacts. So there is an impact on some of the ICE times for other user groups. Those other user groups are listed, so Rocky Minor Hockey, speed skating, the rec hockey, figure skating, and over 30 hockey. And they have submitted some comments on that potential change. The current ice allocation is a very collaborative approach, and our guest services coordinator works very, very hard with all of those user groups to ensure that she's trying to meet their needs best we can with the ice available. So changing practice times would influence those, so you can look at the comments there. The other thing that potential for reclassifying to their youth. So the other request is that we do have kind of 3 rates. We have a youth, we have a junior B rate, and an adult rate. So that could also impact. So those are the 2 requests and the impacts. And then you have your alternatives as well as the recommendation in front of you. So, do you have any questions?
Okay. Are there questions of council right now? Councillor Auld.
Thanks, Acting Mayor. I do have a question regarding what their actual priority is. Like, the Rams say they should be a youth, and the president of the Rocky Minor Hockey Association says they're not. From what I can see, they do fall under that Junior B youth league, but the Hockey Association is saying they're not. So can I get some clarification on where they stand?
I think for our ice allocations, and our rates, we deem that anybody 18 and under is a youth, or sorry, under 18 is a youth and 18 and above. So that junior B straddles our classification. So hockey could have a different classification is my understanding, right? How they classify their age groups could be different than the town of Rocky and our rates and fees.
Okay, so the Rams are trying to be included in that junior, which Hockey Canada says it's 16 to 20, so they would fall into that, would they not?
We can change the, like, age range, I guess, in this policy to say that, right, 16 to 20 could be youth for sure. It's just not our current
Current structure.
classification, yeah. So that's why when I think the junior Bs first came along, we did have that rate for junior B rate, because they do fall kind of between our adult and youth, right? And so that change could happen.
Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Just going through, there's a lot here, Lisa. This is a big report. Thank you to everybody who put this together. I know so much more about ice allocation than I did prior to this. If the Junior B team was to be categorized as a youth program, they would still be allocated the later ice times based on age of participants. So this is a policy issue, right? It's not. We just have limited ice time, and this is the parameters of the policy.
Yeah,
correct?
most of our ice users would love a time between 5 and 8 p.m. and we could fill that time over and over again. Unfortunately, that isn't our current reality, and we need to be able to schedule. And so the ice allocation does talk about what those factors are, and so age of participants, best utilization of ice time, total registration for each group, so how many skaters we have on the ice, and then also residency from the municipality. So there are, some certain considerations that go into that, and like I said, our ice scheduler works very hard to ensure that she's trying to get the best usage on the ice, right, and trying to get those younger players done at a reasonable hour.
Councillor Caprero.
Thank you. I'm just looking at 2025, 2026 ice booking weeks, like the chart that has everyone pulled in. I just have a question. So week 1, tentative, the Saturday and Sunday. So it's got some gray shaded areas. If you just scroll down, right there, like, is there, what does the gray blackout like mean? See, Saturday and then Sunday, like it's just kind of gray, filled in gray. Like, can there be any practices done on the Saturday or Sunday?
It's just blocked booked. It's just meant to be warm. Yeah, it's just meant to be, she doesn't have a firm, because most of the games happen, right? We don't have a lot of practices happening, so we're talking practice times more so. But in that gray area, though, it's where those Rams games, they get a prime time spot could happen, but we just don't have those
Okay.
hockey
So that weekend
game
there's more
times.
games
Yeah.
than practice.
So
Okay.
this focuses on the practices that are happening, right, between 4 and 11, I guess.
Okay.
So, and that's kind of happening week to week to week on that alternating 1-2 week basis. But weekends are for games typically, and that's why you're seeing all the, it's not allocated, but it'll be full.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Counselor
you're welcome.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Question about, do the Rams schedule and minor hockey schedules run parallel, or are the seasons different? Is there, what I'm thinking, the ice surface goes in, does minor hockey kick in a month after Rams, or kick out a month before, or are they parallel right from day one, right to the end day? Like, so when we're talking about this, we're talking probably, what, 5 months?
Yeah, I mean,
And
during, prime
so-
ice season, September to April.
Okay, so to that then, are they 100% parallel, 80% parallel? Like, because I know when it comes playoff season, if, say, the Rams don't make the playoffs, the season still continues for minor hockey, for example, but it
Yeah.
wouldn't continue for the Rams. And what is the length of time that would happen? I guess where I'm at, thinking-wise, is it as big of a problem as we're making it out to be? If in fact the Rams were given priority 3 versus where they're at today, is there, how many, because their request is only for 1 day a week, 1 week, and 2 days the following week, out of 2 possible ice surfaces. So I understand there's going to be some stresses there. But at the beginning of the season, the end of the season, is there portions that we can remove out, so we're not talking about 5 months, we're only talking about 4 months? Are we talking 3 months? What is the overlap, and how big of a issue would it be if in fact we said yes to the Rams?
Okay. So the overlap is pretty much the whole major part of their season. And so for the practice times, which is on the chart here, so if we give the Rams this spot, you're moving younger players to play after the Rams. So essentially you're taking either rec, minor, hockey slots with players who are younger that they play later. So typically the way we do it is the youngest players are skating first and we move those on. So if you put the Rams where they want to be, then you're bumping some of those younger groups to a later practice time, and that's what the feedback was for.
So I've been to the arena to meetings when the lights of the ice surfaces are off.
Sure, daytime.
No, in
right?
the evenings.
In the evenings.
So how often does that happen? Like, I don't know
During
why
that
that.
hockey season, I mean, we're putting an ice now on one surface,
yeah.
right? So we have camps going on. Right now, we are trying to put public and shinny skates around that time. But typically, if it's prime time hockey season, those lights are not off anytime during September to the end of April.
So I'll just kind of chime in here for a little bit. So kind of talking to Councillor Schippel's question, minor hockey doesn't really start their games until mid-October is when they actually start the season, whereas the Rams season starts in September. They actually start playing league games in September, so it literally starts a month earlier than minor hockey. The biggest question here is they're a priority 3 for games, but a priority 7 for practices, where there's a discord there. I look at the Rams, yes, they're a junior team, but they're also a business. So in order to keep the Rams in the community and operational, they need to sell tickets, they need to sell sponsorships, they need to do all of that. And in order to do that, they need to be a team that people want to come see, which means they need to win. You know, and part of a winning team is being able to hold practices, have your team together, to field a better team, because I know that when you're talking teams from Sylvan and other communities, you know, they're able to draw players from larger centers, which are going to be better players. So the Rams need to draw from further away, and I know they have players from Calgary and other areas. You know, having a practice at 9 o'clock at night for someone that lives in Calgary, they're not going to show. That's just a sad but true fact. So, you know, I look at the Rams as a little different than minor hockey, because minor hockey, you know, your kids register, they play, and they're just going to play no matter what. But the Rams are a business, and they need to make enough profit to be able to keep that business running. I know they're nonprofit; they're not a for-profit, but they need to keep that money invested into the group. Otherwise, the team folds, and the last thing we want to do is see the team fold, because that's, you know, they're a good ambassador for Rocky Mountain House. So, you know, to me, looking at the 6 practice times per month, you know, one week, 1 2 weeks in the month of September and October, it to me isn't even an issue, because minor hockey hasn't even started yet until October. So I would be inclined more to grant the request of keeping priority 3 games and moving their practice times up to priority 3 to keep it consistent. But again, this is a council decision. Councillor Shippold.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Well, I think Councillor Auld, to begin with, changed a bit of my opinion with his first question. You as well are changing where I'm at on that. Later on, we're going to talk about the summer games, and one of the things there is about economic growth. To me, the Rams are about economic growth. I would be inclined to make the motion that we allow the Rams to move to priority 3 in terms of scheduling for practices. So I will make that motion, and that motion let be resolved that Council ask administration to update DICE allocation policy 010/2021 with the amendment to the definition of Junior B Hockey League and assigning the Junior B Hockey League priority number 3 for practice allocation, and bring back to a council meeting on September 2nd, 2025.
Okay, thank you for that motion, Councillor Shippold. Do we have discussion on that particular motion? Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Hutchinson's light was on, and then Councillor Musker.
Thank you. Could you kind of clarify for me, so then if they were moved up to priority 3 for practice times, how is that affecting, and who does it affect on the schedule? I don't know if is that something
So
you can...
week to week, then, if you scroll up, can we see this schedule a little bit, Tracy? It's mostly the other hockey users. I think it's yeah, just go down so we can see the times there. I think I need the other, there we go. So Rocky Minor Hockey Association has a lot of that time, but depending on what the Rocky Rams perfect time is, I believe it's like a 7:30, 8 o'clock time. So taking those slots and filling it with the Rams request would then just push the other users, the youth users later.
So Councillor Musker, and then Councillor Auld, and Councillor Capraro.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I'm just going to stick with the policy on this one, and so I spent some time with it. The policy statement says its goal is to balance the needs of the community. 2.2, as allocation of facility time is equitable, reasonable, and fair. And 5.3, age of participants, and also residency within the municipality or region. The policy prioritizes younger players, and we're asking them to shuffle for older players. So this would need to be a policy change to move away from prioritizing the younger players to start giving more to the older players. I think it's unfair, especially at this state of the game, to start to impose changes on this. For one, I'm going to just admit, I don't know a lot about it, but it just, you know, it was mentioned in the comments that the guest services coordinator spent countless hours. I'm sure that's true. I don't think that's much of an overstatement, because I can't imagine what's involved in juggling the needs and expectations of a diverse group of ice users. So I'm gonna vote against the motion, because I'd like to just leave it the way it is.
Okay. Councillor Auld?
Well, where I struggle is that the Rams have the 17 to 20-year-old kids on it. We have other Rocky Mountain Houses Minor Hockey Association kids that are the same age. Those same age kids get they're all competing for the same spot, but because the Junior B Rams have a couple older kids on there, they all get bumped. So when it goes back to that fair and equitable, they still have those same age kids. Granted, some of them don't live in this community, but they do support our community. So I don't know what the right answer is either, but I don't see it being fair to all the kids when they're all the same age. So if there was some way of flexibility, like in the one chart that says they've got, the minor hockey's got booked off from on Monday and Wednesday, they've got slots booked if needed. So they've got scheduling all already booked, whether they use it or not. It could be opened up to an earlier date or earlier start time. So I'm just struggling with that, the whole age thing a little bit and the excessive booking.
And Councillor Cabrero?
Thank you. I agree completely with Councillor Auld with what he had just said. I guess my question is, because I am looking at the Monday and Wednesday with the 9 to 10 if need, how far in advance do they know if they need those practice times or not? And I guess my other question is too, so say on Monday under Empringham, minor hockey, 8:45 to 9:45. So those later ones, like, are those kids that are that like 16 to 18, like they are older kids, and I would assume they are all local?
The majority, I mean, we do have, you know, from our outlying communities as well, that they are making travel, as well. So, but yes, those are all, so like the beginning of the orange is gonna be the youngest, and then you'll go through to the older kids, right? So anywhere from U12, U13, U15, right, U17, U18.
Right.
Previous years, the Rams did skate before the U18 team, so U18 means under 18, so 17 and under. The Rams skated first, and then our minor hockey skated afterwards.
Right. So in my, like, I'm just kind of looking at it like if we have RMHA, who is mostly local kids, local, I'm talking in town or the county. If they are done at say 9 or 10:45, like if they were to swap with a Junior B Rams practice, like, so they could be done at 10:45, but they might live 5 minutes down the road, right? Like the travel to get home isn't nearly as long. Like, I'm just wondering if there is like some way to just swap some of these out so that, you know, kids that are the same age that live in town, maybe they could have a little bit of a later practice to accommodate some of these kids that are going 2 hours away. Like, that's just kind of what I'm trying to wrap my head around. And again, I am just kind of worrying, like, wondering these 9 to 10 p.m. if need, like, how far in advance do they know if they need those time slots or not?
It's based on registration numbers, right, and the number of
Okay.
practices, I think, with coaching and stuff that want to take those practice times as well, so.
Yeah. It's just, I'm struggling with this, and I
It's
do
not an
definitely
easy,
think- no,
an
it's
easy
not.
answer, no.
It really is
No,
not.
if it was, I don't think, right, you would have, yeah. If we
But
could
I-
figure it out, we would, if we had another ice surface then.
Right?
Right, but that's not an easy thing either,
Yeah.
right, so.
But I am, like, in my mind, I am thinking, so this team is 16 to 21, I believe. I don't think they should be classified as adults. I think the majority of their players, I'm thinking, is probably 18 or younger. I don't know. I think the older ones are just a hand, like 3 or 4 of them, I think is what we were told. But I'm still just thinking too, like, we should change them from adult to junior. I don't know. This is tough. I'm just trying to see, like, where can there just be like a little swap to try to accommodate and make people happy.
Mr. Kraus?
Yeah, and thank you, Dr. Mayor. And it's not an easy little swap. And in fact, you'll find this is going to get more difficult for our staff to schedule in the future. If you look at the daytime use, figure skating has already moved to 7 in the morning, just because of ice time. We are looking, I think, Ringette is trying to establish themselves in the community. You know, so there's another user group. So it really comes down to council's question: what do you think is best for the community? Is it to put the rounds to a priority 3, or to keep the policy as it's existing based on age?
So, I mean, this is a question that, you know, of course, goes round and round and round, because everybody does want the 5 to 8 p.m. ice slots, and there's only 2 ice surfaces, so there's only so many available. I completely appreciate that this is a very difficult process. I just reiterate that, you know, if you have a 17-year-old playing on the Rams and a 17-year-old that plays on the U18 team, and as Councillor Capero alluded, the 17-year-old lives in Rocky, that's a 5-minute drive home. But if the 17-year-old on the Rams team lives in Calgary, that's a 2.5-hour drive, which means that their practice isn't over until 10:30. They're not going to come. They can't make that practice. So I just look at this as a way to support a group in our community that brings people into our town to watch the games. It's an event. It's a celebration of a team, and they are great ambassadors for our community. So I would hate to see something happen that would make the team not as financially viable, which could potentially fold that team down the road. So I would be inclined to support the motion. Councillor Auld.
Thanks, Dr. Mayor. I just have another question regarding how many teams is in minor hockey, not including the Rams. How many minor hockey teams are there?
I don't have that answer in front of me right now.
Well, the reason I ask is if minor hockey just keeps increasing their teams, we're going to be out of ice service for everybody. So do they have 10 teams? Do they have 5 teams? I don't know.
And so our ice scheduler follows this policy, right? And here are the priorities, right? So right now, your sanctioned minor hockey league games are priority 4, but the practices are priority 5, right? So that's where your minor sports organizations. So she does that as evenly as she can, right? So the Rocky Minor Hockey Association does take up the majority of the ice. We have the Trailblazers on this as well, and trying to be equitable, but they are first on our priority list. So this is how our ice scheduler is scheduling, so.
Yeah, and I 100% understand that. I'm just, if there is 5 17 to 18, 16 to 18-year-old teams out there.
Yeah, and it can fluctuate, right? Like rec hockey has grown and minor hockey, right? And it kind of goes back and forth a little bit, but everything seems to be growing, right? So, like Mr. Kraus said, right? It's going to continue to be something that we struggle with, trying to meet everybody's needs best we can. And so we rely on this policy to look at it and say, okay, how are we scheduling? And again, it's a very collaborative process, right? It's not her, she's got so much detailed information on how she chooses this. And a lot of it goes with coaching, right? Number of kids on the ice, and then where they're coming from too. Because if you're coming from further away, even in this community, you can be coming from more than an hour away as well, so.
When I look at that chart, we're maxed out. Like, there's no room for growth as it is, from the chart.
Yeah, and then it would be moving people to early ice time, daytime, right, like, yeah, outside.
And actually, when we met last week, that was our conversation, is how can we kind of encourage some of the ice users to take the morning ice, and, you know, like, do we offer a 50% rate, you know, to make it more enticing to relieve some of the pressure in the evening? So that's something we'll probably bring to council at service level or whatever, because we even went as far to maybe start off with free to see if, to incentivize, you know, the early morning ice time to take some of the pressure off the evening. You know, because there are so many user groups, it's just not hockey. Like, there's speed skating, there's figure skating, there's all of that, and you know, and I think Ringette is coming or trying to come, and so.
And Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. I was just going to comment on that, on, you know, some of the comments in the letters that came from the other user groups, that, you know, it's tough to find that balance between what do you think or consider as a priority. Yes, the Rams are definitely in the business of hockey, I guess is a good way to put it. But what about all of the other ones that are doing the figure skating, the number of other responses we had here from the different groups? How do you, as Councillor Musker said, to keep that fairness, how do you balance that? I don't think I'm in favor of supporting the motion that's on the floor. I think that there's a lot more community members represented in the other ice user groups that I think we need to look at the majority, not the minority.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor. Do we have any more discussion on that particular motion? Councillor Capero.
Just wondering if it can be repeated, please.
Yes. Councillor Schippel, would you please repeat your motion?
Yes, I can do that. Let it be resolved, the council asks administration to update the ice allocation policy 010/2021 with the amendment to the definition of Junior B Hockey League and assigning the Junior B Hockey League priority number 3 for practice allocations, and bring back to the council meeting on September 2nd, 2025.
Okay, thank you for repeating your motion. So do we have any more discussion on that particular motion? I'm not seeing any more discussion, so I'll call that to a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? And that is defeated. Okay. So, moving on to item 8.2, the SEEP repeal bylaw. And Mr. Kraus, are you doing this one? Okay.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. So this is on the recommendation of our Director of Corporate Services. So when SEEP was started, a program by council, LOC was set up to finance the Clean Energy Improvement Program. After a couple of years of that program, what we're finding, the uptake isn't as high as anticipated or planned for at the initial. So what Ms. Quinlan is suggesting to council is that we eliminate the LOC because we can fund the project through our existing reserves, which would provide our residents with a lower interest rate than they would pay for us going through an LOC, and basically, well, better for the citizens that participate and easy for us to fund without going through the requirements of an LOC. Then plus, I mean, it's no cost to the municipality because the money that we obviously lend out, we get paid back with the interest that we would have gained with it sitting in our MUSH account, basically.
Okay, thank you for that report, Mr. Kraus. Do we have any questions? Councillor Schippel.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. It makes total sense, and I'll be happy to put the first motion on the floor, please. That it resolve the council approve the financing the town portion of this what's it called? SEEP program through internal funding.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Councillor Auld.
I just have a question, thank you, Acting Mayor. The town is it allowed to loan money to businesses? How does this, how is this different?
So under the Municipal Government Act, it identifies the SEEP program.
Oh, it's a.
So we are allowed under the MGA if we're doing it for the SEEP program.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kraus. Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
And just for clarity, it's 31% financed by the town, and the rest is coming from the green, what's it called, Green Municipal Fund? Through FCM.
FCM, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, more questions on the motion? I'm going to call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. And Councillor Caprero.
Thank you. I'll make the next motion. Be it resolved that council give first reading to the repealing bylaw to repeal 2024-04 SEEP LOC borrowing bylaw.
Okay, and thank you for that motion. Discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Councillor Ald.
Third motion that council gives second reading to the repealing bylaw to repeal 2024-04 SEEP LOC borrowing bylaw.
Thank you for that motion. Discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I make the motion that council give unanimous consent to proceed with third reading.
Thank you for that motion. Discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. And Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
How did you know? Be resolved that council give third and final reading to the repealing bylaw to repeal 2024-04 SEEP LOC borrowing bylaw.
And thank you for that final motion. Discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I am going to call a quick 5-minute break so we can have a bio break, and then we will continue on with our agenda. we are good to go back. Okay, we are back on live stream, and we're going to move on in our agenda. So we are under item 8.3 for the financial update and analysis. And I'll pass it off.
Good morning, Acting Mayor, members of council, members of public. I'm here today to present the financial overview of operations and capital for the 6 months ending June 30th, 2025. Overall, for operations, the majority of revenues are on track at 51% of budget, with building permits and recreation fees being higher than expected. Building permit sales continue to be high in 2025, with actuals to the end of June at $72,000, which is $22,000 higher than the annual budget. For recreation, sales of fitness passes, pool lessons, and memberships are higher than expected. Of note, provincial fine revenues are actually below budget at 32%. For total expenditures, they are under budget at 46%, primarily due to lower than expected spending in the utilities program. Utilities generally, there's a timing difference or a timing issue due for repairs and maintenance and contracted services. For parks, generally those activities are seasonal, and generally we see that spending happening more so during the summer months. For operations and in infrastructure spending, they are lower in professional consulting and contract services budget. More spending is expected in the summer and fall periods. I might just add that we tend to prorate our budget evenly over 12 months, and sometimes that does cause these timing issues that I'm talking about. Any questions on the operational results to this point?
I am not seeing any questions, so yeah, you can continue.
Thank you. In terms of capital, the capital statement to the end of June, we've got a carry forward budgets of nearly 15.2 million. We've got a 2025 approved budget of 5.9 million for a total capital spend of $21.1 million. To the end of June, we've spent $5.8 million, or 27% of that budget. And I might add that there are some projects that are noted as being in progress, but may not have associated cost yet. And we expect that. Those are due to delays in billings from vendors, but we expect those costs to be within the Q3 report to council. We've provided a summary. I worked with some of the directors in terms of updating the status on most of the projects. For the 2025 approved projects, spending of $1.2 million to the end of June, with a remaining budget of $4.7 million. For the carry forward, there's been spending of $4.6 million, primarily the water treatment plant, with a remaining budget of $10.6 million on that particular project. Any questions on capital at all?
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
That was the wastewater treatment plant?
Sorry, wastewater treatment.
Not the water,
plant.
okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Any other questions on the capital? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Sorry. No more questions. I just really appreciate how this report comes to us. It's very easy to read, and I think is easy for the public to look at and read as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor. I just have one more update actually on our property taxes. So as everybody may know, our property tax season ended July 31st. The Town of Rocky Mountain House has 3,320 tax rolls within our town. A little over 1,200 of those rolls are actually registered under our tax installment payment plan, or TIP as we call it. We found that people recognize the value of this program as we see a growing interest in utilization of this program. It's been welcomed as owners are now being expected to cover their property taxes alone as more mortgage holders or companies no longer offer that service with their mortgages. If property owners find themselves in a bind to pay property taxes, we've been able to calculate payments to assist them to clear their balances by the end of the year. This puts them in a great position to start the new taxation year. If property owners are in financial difficulty, we offer tax agreements for repayment, and these have been successful. For 2025, or property tax payments to July 31, 2025, we've collected approximately 92.9% of our total property tax payments, which is a similar trend to the prior year. So I think there's a lot of success that we're seeing with this TIP program. Of note, however, August 1st, so last Friday, we did administer the the penalty payments of the 4%. And we had a little slowdown in our mail last week, so we seem to be getting still some postmarked payments that are dated, as of the July 31st date. So we'll work with those and we'll void them if needed. So, yeah, so that's a bit of an update on our property tax program. Any questions?
Do we have any questions? I am not seeing any questions. Councillor Caparro.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and make a motion that council accepts the June 30th, 2025 operating variance, capital, and capital project listing reports for information.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Do we have any discussion on that motion? Councillor Schipholt.
Prior to that motion, I'm not sure at what point, we manage a lot of things, but we never get a list of managing our savings accounts and interests and all that kind of stuff. Could that be included in one of these plans or someplace where we can see a list of what we have in savings and what the interest rates we are, what banks are at, all that kind of stuff? Just because managing money is a critical part as well to a business. So if we can get that, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely, Councillor. I'll look at that for our Q3 report.
Thank you.
And Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Just a few grabs from your report. Terms like on track, revenues up, expenditures down, music to my ears. Thank you for a great report.
Thank you.
Okay, I am not seeing any more discussion on that motion, so I will call out to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Very, very good report. Thank you. So moving on to, we have no correspondence for action, so correspondence for information. We have 4 items in there. Is there anything that anyone needs to bring out of there to discuss? And if not, then I'm just looking for a motion to accept the correspondence for information. Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. Just on the comment I'd made earlier about the Municipal Police Service multi-year financial plan, which is in there for information, just I would urge everybody to just have a look at that and see what's in there, because again, we don't have a whole lot of say as to what increases or what changes are coming up. But having said that, I would make the motion to accept items 10.1 through 10.4 as information.
And thank you for that motion. Discussion on that motion? All those in favor? And that is carried. So moving on to activity and committee reports. 11.1 is my activity report. So I have my report in front of you if there's any questions. One of the highlights I'd like to bring out of that report is on July 16th. There was an event that I went to in Red Deer for Westerner Days, and it was actually a very good networking event to go to. There was many MLAs, some MPs, virtually every municipality in central Alberta was represented there, along with the Premier. So it was a very good event to go to and to promote Rocky Mountain House. We were actually one of the hot topics there when I was there, with the discussion on our offsite levies. So that was a very hot topic, and there was many municipalities that came up and discussed that with me. So it was a very well worth event to go to. And is there any other questions on my report?
I have one. If
Councillor
you allow
Schultz.
me, Acting Mayor, I know in this point that you didn't get paid for mileage to go to attend this, and I a question to Mr. Kraus is it after the fact, can council approve mileage payment for going to this event, or too late?
I-
We
I-
can't,
Sorry, go ahead.
so mileage can be approved at this point to attend that, or
So, per diem or mileage?
mileage?
Well, because mileage can be claimed, because it's still, you went out of town on municipal business, so the mileage can be claimed. It'd be, if you did not take,
I didn't.
so it'd be like the 16 cents per kilometer. But if you're talking per diem, then that would just require a resolution of council, which you can do now, even though it's after the fact.
I appreciate the sentiment. I am fine on this. I took my own vehicle. I went on my own dime. Perhaps next year's event that can be looked at differently, but this is a very important event that we go to. There was a lot of dignitaries there, and I think it's something that, you know, the town of Rocky Mountain House needs to be represented at these meetings. But I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't need to be reimbursed at all for this meeting. Okay, any other questions on my report? If not, just looking for a motion to accept as presented.
I'm going to make two motions, if you'd allow me. The first one is that you do get the honorarium for attending that. See where council's at on that. I appreciate you wanting to go, but these things are important to our community, and so I think that it should be a paid thing. So my first motion would be that that you attending that event, and that you'd be reimbursed the honorarium portion for that event.
Per diem.
Per diem, sorry.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the table. Do we have discussion on that particular motion? Councillor Auld.
I thought we discussed it and it fell within the policy of honorarium. Was that not? Our honorarium covers basically that event.
Honorarium is for events and things in town. This was in Red Deer.
Yeah, I still, strictly by policy, I thought it was an honorarium event. I'd have to pull the policy up again.
And Mr. Kraus may be able to allude better on that.
I think the policy's pretty gray on the area if it's an out-of-town event, so we've always leaned to a council resolution on those events.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Was that the event that was the luncheon for Westerner Days?
Yeah, it was a VIP luncheon for Westerner Days, and that's where every municipality in central Alberta was represented, MLAs, MPs, the Premier was there.
And I think maybe that's where there was some of the gray areas, because when the invitation came and we had the discussion, it was basically a luncheon for an event for Westerners Days, and we didn't feel that there was a benefit to the municipality on paying somebody to go to it. And I think that's where you chose to just go on your own.
Yep, I attended on my own, yes. I believe it's very important that, you know, the spokesperson for the municipality attend these events, because there's a lot of good things that come out of the networking events there. Okay, so we do have a motion on the table for being... Councillor Schipel, would you like to repeat your motion?
My motion is just that you would be reimbursed the per diem for attending the Western Days Premier's Luncheon in Red Deer.
Any more discussion on that motion? And I call that to a vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? And that is carried. Okay, and you said you had a second motion.
My second motion is we accept your report.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to item 12.1, the activity reports for council. Councillor Auld, your report. Do you have anything to highlight?
Nothing bad.
Nothing to highlight? Any questions for Councillor Auld?
No.
Councillor Caprero, I see you're quick on the light today.
Sorry. Just if anyone has questions, it was a pretty quiet month for me, so.
Okay, moving on to Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. Just a little update on the health professional engagement team, and Dale might want to add to it as well. It really looks like there's some positive things coming our way with doctors and nurse practitioners. We have also finalized our own bank account as a society, so we'll have to be moving forward with bylaw review and changes as the bylaws were just put in, taken a generic bylaw off the website. So that'll be coming up. The AGM is scheduled for September 3rd. The Unstoppable Nonprofit, we have a meeting this evening that is bringing out some guests from a foundation that is the Central Alberta, I believe it's called, nonprofit, or I'm not sure the name of it, foundation, just to look at possibilities with nonprofits, if it would be worth starting a nonprofit foundation here in Rocky, or just maybe creating something underneath an existing foundation that already exists. So we'll have more details on that after tonight's meeting. Continuing on with the Summer Games Bid Committee meetings, and that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any questions on the Deputy Mayor? Okay, looking at Councillor Muska's report.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I have nothing to add.
Nothing to add? Okay, and then we'll move on to Councillor Schipholt's report. Do you have anything to add or highlight on your report?
Nothing really to highlight. I just agree with Councillor Hutchinson in terms of what's happening in healthcare. I think we're seeing some shifts that are happening in a positive way for our community. Some of the promises that were given to us still haven't met the asphalt yet that we're following up on. So, but overall, I think it's pretty awesome. So, I showed a new nurse practitioner around a couple weeks ago, and she's moving to Rocky in September. So, she's from Zimbabwe. Very nice lady. Her and her husband are moving here. So,
Good, good. Okay, so I will make a motion to accept the council activity and committee reports as presented. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to the action list. Mr. Kraus.
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor. So going through the open items, storefront improvement recognition, our communications department is working on that right now. The item from the action list, which was the vacant lot on Main Street, that has been moved to service level and it's on that agenda. The last open one is the housing study, which we still need to bring to an ICC for discussion. It is in the draft ICF also, so council will have a discussion with that with Clearwater County. I think it's August 14th is that meeting is set. So, and that is it.
Okay, do we have any questions for Mr. Kraus on the action list? If not, just looking for a motion to accept the action list as presented. Councillor Schipholt.
thank you, Acting Mayor. I also move the action list as presented.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Oh, Councillor Schipholt didn't have his hand. Okay, and that is carried. Moving on to administrative inquiries. Do we have any administrative inquiries today? Councillor Schipholt.
I have a couple. So, I'm not sure, multi-unit residential, new construction or multi-residential. So my understanding is they're assessed as commercial now. you can correct me if I'm wrong, but do they qualify for our tax incentive plan? We call it, as a town, residential, but in my understanding is the assessor calls it commercial. Can I leave that one with you to find out if in fact it should be, if our plan for incentives applies?
I'll verify that, Acting Mayor for Council, but off the top of my head, under the MGA, there's two types of tax incentives, one for non-residential and one for residential. So for a tax incentive, I would think under the MGA, we would probably have to develop a new bylaw for residential specific properties, which I think would even include apartment buildings and so forth. But I will verify, because assessment's a little different than what the MGA calls and defines residential for that type of program.
Okay. I'll leave that with you. Vacant assessment. So we, under our tax roll, have vacant land assessed at a different rate. Does it accomplish what we want it to accomplish, and is it necessary to have vacant assessments for vacant residential, vacant commercial, vacant industrial? Are we fooling ourselves, or are we, what's the, I'm confused with that.
So that's a philosophy of council and council's decision. Typically, a municipal council will assess, or not assess, but have a higher mill rate for vacant commercial land or vacant residential land on the purpose that to entice the property owner to build, so they don't pay the higher mill rate. If you want my personal opinion, I don't think it's an effective method at all. And because we've had vacant commercial land here for ever. So that would need to be a discussion with council when we get for next year, I guess, because our tax notifications have gone out. We've gone through the cycle this year, but that would be a good discussion for council at service level. If council wants to proceed with that type of philosophy.
I'm hoping we could add that to service level then. Sure. Does council have to make a motion to add that to service level, or can we just?
No, if you want to add it to, by resolution, I'd prefer that.
I would think a motion would be better, yes.
Can I make that motion now then, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd make a motion then that we add the vacant land assessment to the service level review, for review, as to whether it accomplishes what we want it to accomplish.
Okay,
That's pretty wordy, but
so we have a motion on the table. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. Call it to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried.
thank you. One last question for administration. So the city of Edmonton has something called summer vacation. There was a bit of a discussion because one of the councillors who's running for mayor left on his summer vacation. We don't have summer vacation per se. Can you tell me what summer vacation means for the city of Edmonton? And could we have something like that here, where we have a period of time where we don't have to worry about meetings or whatever, and we could call it our summer vacation time? Because it seems like stuff keeps popping up all the time, so. Do you know what that means?
Absolutely, that's totally within council's preview. And that would happen at the organizational meeting when you guys establish your yearly schedule for council meetings. So at the org meeting, you could say there's no meetings in the month of August. And then you would adopt that schedule, and then August would be your vacation. So, but it's done at the organizational meeting. It's all entirely up to council.
Okay. I was just jealous because the city of Edmonton councillors all get summer vacation. I'm thinking, where's our turn? You know, so I just tossed that out there. And there was a bit of discussion about somebody who'd left early for summer vacation. But anyway, thank you for that. We have a sign bylaw coming, or we have signs coming up. The wayfinding signs. Do they adhere to our sign bylaw that we have? Do we have a sign bylaw? Is there ever Anything around that?
We do have a sign bylaw, not a specific sign bylaw. It's in the land use bylaw for signage. And it typically relates to not municipal signs, but signs for businesses and so forth. I would have to look at it in detail, but typically municipal signage is exempt from that.
Fair enough. Okay. Then just one last question. Sorry, for administration. So we see delegations coming in here all the time, and they sit with their backs to our TV. What are the chances of getting a TV on the front wall someplace so that the people sitting at the back, we're not looking over them, or they know what we're looking at when we're looking at stuff? How do I get that, or how do we get that in process? I think it's unfortunate for the delegations who are in here and our people, members at large.
It's on order, Councillor.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's better than I thought it was going to be. That's all I have. Thank you, Acting Mayor.
Okay, do we have any other administrative inquiries? I do have one. Months ago, we talked to the hotels about a DMF, and I'm just wondering if we have any more updates on that, or how we can proceed moving that along.
Acting Mayor, I would have to check with our Economic Development Officer on the status of that. I'm not aware of anything new coming up in the last few months on that. So.
Okay, yeah, if you could check, 'cause I think that's an important topic that we need to follow through on. Okay, any other administrative inquiry? Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. I'm just talking about the signs, kind of jogged my memory. So now we have the small dog park. Is there, or could we have signage put by the big dog park to direct people to say that there's the small dog park in behind? Because you have to walk down the trail and around to see that. And if people are from out of town, they may not know that the small dog park exists.
I'm sure administration could take care of that.
Thank you.
Okay, last call for administrative inquiries. Okay, I'm not seeing any more, so any notices of motion today? I am not seeing any notice of motion, so we will take a brief recess and we'll go into closed session. Okay, we are back from our break, and I'm just looking for a motion to go into closed session. Councillor Caprera was making that motion. All those in favor? And we are now in closed session. Okay, we're back from closed session, and we do have a few motions coming out of closed session. Item 16.2, Councillor Auld.
Thanks, Acting Mayor. I'll make the motion that be resolved that council accepts the 2028 Alberta Summer Games funding report and commits to the financial support for the games if the joint bid is successful.
Okay, thank you for that motion. All those in favor? And that is carried. Item 16.3, we have a motion from Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I move the council direct administration to proceed with the P3 concept plans at a cost of $6,500.
Thank you for that motion. Discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. And item 16.4, Councillor Schippold.
Thank you. For 16.4, let me make the motion. Let it be resolved that administration be directed to bring back the draft remuneration policy to the September 2nd council meeting.
Okay, and thank you for that motion. Discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. And Councillor Caprero.
Thank you. I will make the motion that we accept the CAO dialogue for information.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Discussion? All those in favor? That is carried, and with nothing left on our agenda, I will adjourn the meeting at 12:36. Good meeting, everyone. Thank you.